Hello, everyone. We are going to talk about recent tectonic issues that happen in Turkey. And my name is Malik, and I am joined by the editor-in-chief of Politurco. The Politurco has recently been online journal review Turkey politics in terms of the scholar articles. So I am joined by Aydogan. He is expert in domestic politics in Turkey, and his views, especially on Twitter and on a Politurco editor OPAD, has been highly cited by others. So he is well known on the topics and then internationally and domestic politics of Turkey. So I'm going to ask him about the recent issues, recent development that happened in Turkey with the mafia boss that came up on a YouTube, and he is rattling the domestic politics of Turkey and his nexus, his issues, association with the high political elites and bureaucracy, civil bureaucracy, and even the police department of the Turkey. So that take him to further evaluate the assessment with the deep state that called by many. So thank you very much for your time, Aydogan, and I'm happy to have you. How are you doing there?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm good. How
All
are
right,
you?
great. So my first question is, who is this guy? I mean, he has been watched and he has expanded his audience, and he is
Right.
just came out, and so far he did 5 YouTube video
8 videos,
channels.
7 videos actually. It's been
Yeah,
7.
and no, he says there are more coming.
Right.
You are going to be defeated by my tripod and cam. And so is he hero, or he is a villain? So who is he, and why is so matter to the politics in Turkey?
Well, I mean, identifying him just as an organized crime boss, I think wouldn't be sufficient. So, I mean, we cannot see the entire picture by only identifying him as a mafia leader or a leader of an organized crime, because he is bigger than that. So there are many other organized crime bosses in Turkey who are definitely different than Sedat Peker. So what makes Sedat Peker unique is his affiliation with the Turkish deep state structure. So that expression, deep state, actually is derived from Turkish politics. So, I mean, as you may remember, several years ago, when the Ergenekon case was very famous in Turkey and abroad, the other countries and their media organizations started to call that expression a deep state. So what is it, and how it is related to that particular organized crime boss? Okay, so Sedat Peker was recruited by the Turkish deep state in late 80s and early 90s. We know his affiliation with some leading military figures. So when we talk about the deep state, we are actually talking about a secret clandestine organization within the Turkish military, but it's not limited only to the Turkish military. So there was a special unit in the Turkish military which was called Special War Unit, and that department was established during the Cold War. So we can understand that the activities of that deep state structure has some habits from the Cold War era. So Turkey was a NATO country, and that unit was established in order to combat the Soviet expansionism and communism.
Mm-hmm.
So they were working as cover operatives. So in order to combat such a such an invasion, a Soviet invasion, they were responsible to organize civilians to combat a potential communist military offense. But after the Cold War, that department started to look for different objectives for their survival. So they started to, I mean, they went on with another name in the Turkish military, Special Armed Forces, but I mean, their activities went on. Okay, so Sedat Peker, whenever you examine his speeches, he identifies himself as part of that state organization. So he says that his whole life went on in the Turkish state, but he was never employed by a regular Turkish state institution. So what he refers to is actually that secret state or state-related undercover special armed forces or special war units. Okay, so one.
So he's not the yesterday guy. I mean, he has been in
Not at
the.
all.
All
Not
right.
at, not at all. So we understand, for example, when he says that in 1996
Mm-hmm.
he was assigned by Mr. Korkut Eken. He was one of the most important figures in that special war unit. He was a colonel in that organization, and then he started to work with Mehmet Ağar, then the director of the police forces.
And the former foreign minister of foreign
Yes, 1996.
yeah.
So he said that he was assigned to assassinate a journalist based in Cyprus in 1996.
And that does not result. It's kind of like a
Not at all.
yeah.
But
result
revealed
murder.
that particular assassination, he says that Korkut Eken assigned him to execute that order in Cyprus, and he says that he has his brother. He is extremely professional, so he says that his brother is the best one that fits to this mission.
His
So
brother has indictment. Actually, he claimed it when he was taken to the custody a couple of days ago, right? Did he write
no.
that?
yes, absolutely, he
In the
confessed
allegations.
everything. He explained everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so Korkut Eken, Colonel Korkut Eken, and his brother Atilla Peker, they went to Cyprus together to make some investigation about the targets. But later on, for some reasons, he couldn't manage it. He couldn't make it
Mm-hmm.
for some reasons. And Korkut Eken later on tells him that Attila, don't worry about it. The mission was accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Korkut Eken and Mr. Sedat Peker, brother Attila Peker, goes to Cyprus to a military headquarters, which is absolutely affiliated with that particular organization that I just referred to in the introduction part of my
No,
speech.
no, hold on there. I mean, he's go to military headquarters of Turkish
Cyprus.
military headquarters
In Cyprus, yes, they went to
under the covert operation. You mean?
for this cover operation. They go to visit a Turkish military base in Cyprus, and that commander admits that. He says, yes, Mr. Colonel Korkut Eken and Sedat Peker's brother Attila Peker came to visit him, but he says he didn't know the purpose of their
The
visit.
visit.
Yes. But what we know is that Sedat Peker and his brother admits that particular assassination assignment. And the second assassination that Mr. Sedat Peker exposes was Uğur Mumcu assassination.
I was going to ask you, what does this has to do with that? Are they linked?
So we do not exactly know their motivation for Kutlu Adalı assassination. Okay, so what we know was that journalist Kutlu Adalı.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Kutlu Adalı was also the chief political advisor to presidents of
He was,
Rauf
I mean, he had some political affiliations, but he was writing exclusively on a robbery. So in his writings, he was telling the story of how the Turkish soldiers, how the Turkish soldiers attacked Saint Barnabas grave, and they stole something from this monastery. Okay, so we don't know what they stole from that. Okay, some say that they stole some golds that were buried there some 20 years ago during the Turkish-Greek War in Cyprus, and there are some other allegations as well. So we don't know, but what we know is that Sedat Peker is telling the truth. He reveals, he exposes an assassination assignment, which was allegedly carried out by Korkut Eken's crew.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of them. The second revelation by Mr. Sedat Peker was another famous, one of the best investigative journalists in Turkey. So he was Uğur Mumcu. He was writing for a well-known secular newspaper, Cumhuriyet, Republic.
Mm-hmm.
So he was writing for this newspaper, and he says that he was also murdered by the same organization.
Mm-hmm.
But why was he assassinated? He says Uğur Mumcu was writing about terror and drug connection. So in early 90s, the Turkish state accelerated its offense and attacks to PKK, and Uğur Mumcu concluded that there is that connection between the warlords and the drug lords. So the military leaders and police officers, police departments, they were cooperating with the drug dealers during that dirty war.
Mm-hmm.
So Uğur Mumcu was writing about that connection.
And revealing the individuals, probably.
Absolutely.
Unwanted.
So Sedat Peker says that we first thought that Mehmet Ağar, the former Minister of
Internal Affairs,
was actually working for the interest of the government, but he actually says that he was only working for himself.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't want that war end because they were benefiting from that dirty war between
still,
PKK
even today,
and the Turkish deep states.
Uh-huh.
So he says that Mehmet Ağar organized that assassination as well. So, Uğur Mumcu assassination was also an important revelation that he made. But there are also some other revelations he made during his speeches. So he simply, yes.
That start 1996 up to today.
Right.
And now what changed? So now he says, he framed his target, I'm talking about the Sedat Peker. He framed the operation against some protagonist, which is Erdogan, which Süleyman Soylu. He's the now internal ministry of Turkey, has some connections with the former internal affairs. Now he framed his operation that they ill-treated his family members during the police raid in his house. Is it really a justifiable claim, or is it the things upside down, upended now? There's a brawl, a skirmish internally, and we don't see. But this is what the Sedat Peker is kind of like revealing day by day. Now what? So first, what has changed?
Let's remember that he was arrested along with some other Ergenekon.
2014,
2000. That process.
No, he released in 2014. Yeah.
He was released in 2014, but remember that case was a deep state case, Ergenekon case.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
State in the state.
Absolutely. So after the relations between Erdogan and Gülen movement deteriorated, Erdogan decided to ally with that deep state organization, Ergenekon organization. That's why all the members of this Ergenekon deep state structure were released. So Erdogan allied with this deep state organization against Gülen movement to purge them, to get rid of that problem.
Why he would do that? I mean, because the Gülen movement is pro-democracy, European Union integration, supporting rule of law, and then Erdogan wouldn't go with
Erdogan realized the problem between the Gülen movement and Erdogan started in 2010 and it went on in 2011. What happened in 2011 was that Erdogan started to work with Iran against the American and United Nations sanctions. So Iran needed Turkey's help to evade the sanctions. So on the one hand, Erdogan needed that smuggle-related money from Iran. But on the other hand, there were laws, international laws. So the people in the government who are affiliated with Gülen movement did not want to be part of that plot. Okay? And Erdogan is obsessed with the idea that he should be the sole leader of the country. So he's obsessed with the concept of being the caliph of the entire Muslim world. So for him, Gülen movement was an obstacle to reach his goals, ambitions. Obviously. So it was a destiny for the Gülen movement to be purged because Erdogan had the power of the states, and Gülen movement only followed the law. They wouldn't do anything else against him. So Sedat Peker at that time was in jail, but Erdogan released him. Not only him, all the other members of the Ergenekon. So what happened then? What was the problem? So Sedat Peker was working on behalf of Erdogan government. He was giving speeches. He was, for example, uh, he attacked the Hurriyet newspapers to uh, to take the control of the newspaper and give it to
And
Erdogan
he confessed
ally.
that, right?
What is that?
He confessed that it was.
Confessed that. He confessed that. So
I did it on order. He says.
attacked the Hurriyet newspaper.
Yeah.
He ordered
Fellow.
one of his lawyers to beat a Turkish deputy, Mr. Fevzi İşbaran,
Uh-huh. In the office.
in custody. In the custody,
Yeah.
and he confesses everything. He was working for Erdogan, but when Erdogan started to be involved, when the Turkish government decided to be involved in drug trafficking, especially with the drug lords in Colombia and in Venezuela, they needed a very huge fleet. And Azerbaijani businessman, Mr. Mubaris Mansimo,
Monsieur.
was one of the most successful businessmen in that field.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked him to take this job, but he refused. And he also refused in 2013, in 2014, when Erdogan asked him to purchase one of the biggest media conglomerates in Turkey. He refused to do that. So Erdogan always kept him in his mind with these two refusals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when he realized that they wouldn't be able to make that with Mr. Mansimo, they only had one chance, and it was to get rid of him.
Mm-hmm. How could
And this
you
is what
refuse
they did.
us?
You know how? Yes, absolutely. How did they manage this? They simply claimed that he is affiliated with the Gülen movement, and he assigned Mehmet Ağar, who was known as one of the top guys of the Turkish deep state,
Mm-hmm.
okay, to execute that order. So what he did was that Mr. Mehmet Ağar, he wanted one of his
Fleet.
guys to be the chief police officer in Istanbul, and with his help they indicted Sedat Peker in 2018. Okay, and then after they arrested Mr. Mubaris Mansimo, they took over his assets and his marina in Bodrum,
Mm-hmm.
because they needed that marina to make that drug trafficking activities possible.
Mm-hmm. And under the guise of
Okay, so where is that root? So they are, I mean, another revelations he made was that Erdogan's right arm, former Prime Minister Binali Yıldırım's son, was involved in that plot. In his most recent video, the 7th video, Mr. Sedat Peker says that Binali Yıldırım's son went to Venezuela to make that deal.
Uh-huh.
But they are carrying this cocaine to where?
Let
I
me
mean,
let me
Europe.
let me add something in there.
Sure.
He was with a group of highly official diplomat, and they also visited one of the school confiscated by by Turkish government that belonged to the Gülen movement. So he was, and then Binali Yıldırım says my son was on a trip of taking the AIDS, humanitarian AIDS, but the COVID related AIDS to the Venezuela. Okay, and now he came. So how is that? I mean, possible? I know you're gonna continue to tell me that. So anyway, go ahead. I mean, this is like a puzzle pieces. We started from 1996 and even the Cold War up to today. So it's really
Alkan, we are talking about billions of dollars, huge money, billions of dollars, and they cannot say no to this amount of money. And you know what? On the one hand, they claim to be the caliph of the Muslims, but on the other hand, they are bringing this poison to the Middle East, to the Muslim brothers and sisters, right, in the Middle East, to the Arab countries. They are carrying this drug to where? To the Middle East, according to the revelations or allegations of Sedat Peker. But so far, whatever Mr. Sedat Peker said was validated. Everything he says seems authentic and accurate.
It's not only murder, assassination. He talks about the money laundering, drug trafficking, beating, and even rape. I mean, it's not only one criminal. There's a series of the criminal that he involved, and not only him as a criminal boss, but everybody around him. So he carrying some like dirty businesses for others, that unwanted people. When you were talking about Erdogan, so I just remember, I mean, it is the revenge politics that he has been carrying out. For Absolutely. The revenge politics, you have to find someone who carry out that.
Sedat Peker didn't understand what was going on. So when Erdogan wanted to get rid of Mubaris Mansimov,
the Azerbaijani businessman.
Yes, in that field, Mansimo went to Sedat Peker for his protection, and he only thought that the target was Mr. Mehmet Ağar, the former Minister of Internal Affairs. He said that it wouldn't be a big deal. He took the risk to challenge Mehmet Ağar. Okay, yes. So, but when he realized that Mr. Mehmet Ağar is not the main source of this threat, he started to realize that there is something else going on behind it. So, Süleyman Soylu, the current Minister of Internal Affairs, Sedat Peker thought that Süleyman Soylu is responsible for this plot against him. So in his first videos, he targeted Mr. Süleyman Soylu and Mr. Mehmet Ağar. Only two of them. And also Mr. Mehmet Ağar's son.
How to establish the link between Soylu and Ağar established? Date back to...
They were never, actually, honestly speaking, they are not on the same page. Mr. Mehmet Ağar and Süleyman Soylu, they are not on the same.
But he claimed they are buddies.
They are not very close allies. Erdogan wanted that happen with Mehmet Ağar. So, okay, the police chief who was assigned to Istanbul was Mehmet Ağar's ally. Okay.
So you're saying they don't know each other?
They know each other because they are coming. Süleyman Soylu and Mehmet are coming from the same party. But I cannot say that they have positive relations. Okay. So Erdogan, in that case, worked with Mehmet Ağar. Okay. And Süleyman Soylu also is a political rival of Erdogan in the same party. And they made Sedat Peker to think that it was the Minister of Interior Affairs, Süleyman Soylu, has organized that plot against Sedat Peker. But You understand? So when Sedat Peker realized,
It's very hard to
when
understand, but
Sedat
yes.
Peker realized that all the state institutions, all the Turkish state institutions are following him, chasing him, trying to take him from any countries he went, he realizes that Erdogan actually is the source of this plot against him.
Of course.
So in order to check that, so in his most recent video, he revealed the name of Binali Yıldırım's former prime minister's son's name, Erkan Yıldırım. So Erdogan realized that Sedat Peker attacked himself, targeted Erdogan himself. So until that particular time, Erdogan didn't say anything to support the Minister of Internal Affairs in Turkey. He never said anything. He kept quiet. He just wanted to see where this goes on. But he also knows that that guy, Sedat Peker, has representation in the streets of Turkey. So it is an important question, Mr. Alkan. Why, for example, the Turkish public didn't believe Gülen movement's established, very formal, very regular allegations against Erdogan, but they believe Sedat Peker.
Because they want to
know how many people? Almost 50 million people watched all these videos. And according to recent surveys, the great majority of the Turkish people believe him.
And they are eagerly, chantingly waiting for the next video, and it's very interesting. Absolutely. They even call the Peker Netflix.
Okay, you know what is common between Erdogan and Peker? They both have the same nickname, Reis. Okay, and their Reis mean, how can you translate it to English?
Reis means leader actually.
Captain, maybe Captain Reis. Also, it's captain, also captain or comrade or captain.
Yeah, captain, the leading figure.
It's a positive word.
Yeah,
is used for this kind of leadership position.
It's unofficial will be unofficial equal synonym with the president or ministry, like a sort of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. But they're also coming from the same similar culture, bravado culture.
Yeah,
Erdogan came from Kasımpaşa, and Sedat Peker is coming from Sakarya. So they have a very similar cultural background, even though they were born in different decades. But let's remember that's a deep state organization, special war unit, was responsible to organize people street by street. So they have representatives in every little single streets in Turkey, avenues. You understand? Wherever he goes.
The sociological analysis is very interesting on the leader perception, the leader psychology, and the traits, the leader traits, and the environment. They are proud, and how they are likable by the people. Okay. So you're saying that the reason the public believe in him is because they used to believe in Erdogan.
So
what is the connection? I lost that.
Why do the Turkish people believe him instead of believing Erdogan?
All right. Okay.
What is the difference? So when there was a conflict between Gülen movement and Erdogan, Turkish people actually knew that the allegations were true, but they went on supporting Erdogan because they thought that Gülen movement was part of a power struggle within the state. So Gülen movement represented a bureaucratic force, a power. On the other hand, Erdogan represented the people. Okay, In this case, Sedat Peker speaks for himself, okay? And he is using a rhetoric that appeals to the Turkish mindset. He
And
has an accent.
and this guy,
He
he's
has
the
an
one
accent.
who hurt. He is
What is it?
oppressed.
Say it again, please.
He is the one. He is hurt. I mean, he is the one. He is
Absolutely.
oppressed.
He's the one he's hurt.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So the Turkish people always have empathy for the hurt.
Yeah, but the Gülen
So
movement
Erdogan
is
used this
oppressed.
concept for decades. That's why he always succeeded. But this time, Sedat Peker is hurt. This is how the Turkish people perceives it. And he is a great strategist. He planned everything he says. And he is a great orator. He knows how to speak. He knows how to start to his speeches.
Well,
He uses
I mean,
stories.
he is often he uses symbols. I mean, the books on his table and the beats in his hand. So in 2014, when he was out of jail, he came up with the suits, nice suits. And then you were right. He was helping Erdogan to asking votes from the north side of the Turkey. So they were, I mean, a lot of claim, not the claim, the true facts that we can go around, and that they helped each other. So, but now he is using some religious figures in his speech, and so I mean, this guy, he is a really tough guy. I mean, I personally underestimated him. I thought that he's just a regular guy in the street, but now you said he's orator. He mentioned about the books, that he'd been reading the books. He give the examples from the books, uses the symbols, and sometimes refer to the notes on his table. But the question is, how much? I mean, how far he can go? He doesn't touch Erdogan so far. He's calling him
He already
elderly,
touched
elderly brother.
he already touched Erdogan.
Sympathetically of the opposition leader too. He has a sympathetic to opposition leader too. I mean, and then the Erdogan, he's calling him Tayyip abi, means elder brother type. But how far he can go? And this is gonna be my last question. Is gonna be, what is the most likely scenario that you see?
Okay, in his most recent video, he changed his strategy. He attacked Erdogan's ally. I mean, his former prime minister, Erdogan's former prime minister, represents Erdogan. When you target Erdogan's former prime minister, you actually target Erdogan. So Erdogan received that message and he immediately attacked Sedat Peker.
I mean, the former prime minister is right-hand man of Erdogan, doing the many businesses. So that way he's so important to him, beside the political figure.
Right.
Binali.
So
I mean,
when Erdogan attacked Sedat Peker tweeted something interesting most recently, but I don't want to go deeper into that thing because we don't know. We have to wait what he means.
Exactly.
Because he refers to an affair, so we don't want to deal with these things. But Erdogan would do everything needed to take him from United Arab Emirates. So he can propose some offers to United Arab Emirates government, okay, but I'm not sure whether United Arab Emirates would
respond positively. Yeah,
respond positively.
Me too. Me either.
Yeah, but they can use Iran to attack Sedat Peker because Iran is capable of organizing this kind of cover operations in United Arab Emirates. So I believe that Sedat Peker was suspicious about this kind of Iran-related activities against him in United Arab
So
Emirates.
it's not domestic. It's kind of like spillover international. I mean, it's too much. The more he talks, the more that the puzzle is completes each other, and it seems that it's going to be highly international, and maybe other figures will be involved in protagonist lists goes on and on. So
Absolutely.
on the other side of the government that he is accusing of, there's allegations, a strong allegation is not just one allegation that the public can just sweep up the rug, but the Turkish public is very absent-minded. They will forget, or I don't know that. So on the other side of Süleyman Soylu, he called it slanderous, the nefarious, slanderous allegation to him. He recently attended to one of the TV show. There were a couple of so-called independent journalists, which is, I don't know how much they are independent journalists in Turkey, because, every minute one of the journalists is either way in a jail. Turkey is very infamous on that. So I personally watched 3 hours of the Soylu speak to the journalist.
That's right. I watched it too.
He came up with the slanders. I mean, he doesn't take anything from the Soylu, but from the Peker, Mr. Peker. But he granted a police protection to him that he claims.
Right.
And so how's that? I mean, one side is saying, given an allegation, and the other side call it the slanders, and then he gives a fact, evidence actually, from his perspective, because he has a phone calls, he's a video recording, and
it is evident that the AKP government provided police protection for Sedat Peker, so he cannot.
Why a mobster leader, a criminal leader would need a police protection? Doesn't he has to be in a jail?
It is about price, so these kind of leaders, sometimes need to show off. They would want to give that message that the government is with them. They are affiliated with the state. So if a police officer, protecting him, they don't actually need police protection, but it would be a good image for them in the Turkish public. So did
the leader of AKP, which is the Mr. Erdogan, knew about it, or?
I think so. Because they were together, and there are photographs exposing that Sedat Peker is shaking hands with Mr. Erdogan. It's not secret.
Okay, so we have almost 1 hour, and it was a fantastic talk. I personally attach the pieces, the puzzle, but we are also lost. It's kind of like the domestic politics of Turkey is a maze. But right. You explained very easy, and I would use an expression that you explained, like the way you explained to the Mr. Bilal. So it was very, very cool, wonderful, Mr. Aydogan. Thank you very much, Mr. Aydogan. Mr. Aydogan, thank you very much for your time, and I hope we continue on this. So we will wait for the next video of the Sedat Peker, see what he has to do. And he tweeted today that I am going to take it limb by limb, your arm today and your leg tomorrow, and he says the metaphorically speaking. So he's he's an interesting guy. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you for the viewers who is going to watch from the Politurco, and thank you very much. Please keep tuned to us, and we have very interesting talk to coming up next days. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A wonderful day.